Okay, welcome to the next Ask eNRG. This question comes from Julie. Julie, thank you for this question. And it's actually a question I get quite often. It is, what does a metabolic efficiency test actually test and measure? Because I think there are some misnomers out there in terms of just not knowing exactly what you're going to get. And here's the thing, before I break this down. Remember, if you do any type of physiological testing, biomarker testing, genetics, genomics, remember this, and this is what I like to tell people is be sure that you're going to have a plan to use the data. Like, don't just test to test, because I see that all the time with athletes. They get a test and they're like, okay, this is great. One, maybe I don't know what to do with it. And two, how do I use it in my life, in my health, my longevity, my performance? So that's the thing first to think about, whatever test you have. Okay, now back to metabolic efficiency testing. I won't go too long on this particular subject of what is the difference between metabolic efficiency testing and VO2 max testing, but there is a significant difference. Very different protocols, very different exercise protocol, and the interpretation of data is very different in how you put it into your life. Okay, so what we know first is metabolic efficiency testing is not VO2 max testing. It is not lactate threshold testing. In fact, the purpose of metabolic efficiency testing is to measure your nutrition performance. So it is a nutrition assessment. It is not a performance assessment. It will not give you heart rate zones. It will not give you your VO2 max. It will not give you your blood lactate. It will not give you heart rate zones. What it does is a couple different things. So first, what it provides you is it tells you if your body is efficient at using its stored carbohydrate and stored fat efficiently. Now, let me break this down a little bit. We store fat in our bodies, in the muscles, liver, a little bit in the blood, okay? Predominantly more in the muscles for most people. Fat, we store in many different places, right? Just because you can't see it's not stored, see it, it doesn't mean it's not stored. So we, obviously, it's the subcutaneous, you can pinch, but it's also intra-organ, intramuscular. So fat is stored in a lot of places. Now, we have a lot of stores of fat compared to carbohydrate. So most individuals, recreationally athletic individuals, have about 60,000 or more calories stored as fat in their body. Carbohydrates are a little different story. Depending on your size and your gender, you can only have around 1,300 calories stored as carbohydrates, all the way up to about 2,000, right? Smaller petite females have less, larger males have more. And that's just because, as I mentioned, more carbohydrates are stored in the muscle. Okay, so we see that we have these stores of carbohydrate and fat. The first reason to have a metabolic efficiency test is to see how efficient your body is at using them. So, for example, you can be a great carbohydrate burner and a very poor fat burner, which means you're actually a good fat storer, or the flip-flop can happen. You can be a great fat burner or a great carbohydrate storer. So when we look at that, there's not a right or wrong. And I really want to break that down. There is literally not a right or wrong. Now, there are preferences based on your health, your longevity, and your performance goals. But some athletes actually might want to burn more carbohydrate and store more fat, whereas others might want to burn more fat and store more carbohydrate for various reasons. So the first thing that a metabolic efficiency test does is it answers that question. Are you a better carbohydrate burner and fat storer, or are you a better fat burner and carbohydrate storer? So that's number one. Why is that so important? Well, because of that just one data set. That is how I and others can actually customize your daily nutrition plan. So if you come in as an example and say, hey, I want to lose weight, I want to improve my health markers, I want to, do better in my longer distance endurance events, if you're a longer distance endurance athlete, then your dietary strategy, your nutrition intervention is going to be different versus someone who just cares about maybe like short burst performance, more anaerobic performance. So let me go back. When you have a metabolic efficiency test done, there are only three what I call metabolic efficiency levels that you can fall into. There is level 1, where you do not have a metabolic efficiency point. That is actually what the first thing we look for. The point, the metabolic efficiency point, is where your fat and carbohydrate cross or intersect. So as an example, most of us should be burning fat at a lower intensity of exercise and during rest throughout the day. Now, if you're not, there's some really issues going on, right? Some big challenges. But normally we start out throughout the day, even as you're listening to this video, watching this video, you are burning more fat and less carbohydrate. Now, if you start running or biking or doing whatever where the intensity is a little bit higher, eventually those two lines will cross and intersect. So now you're burning less fat and more carbohydrate. That's the first thing that a metabolic efficiency test looks for is, number one, if you have that cross, that metabolic efficiency point, and where it is located. So back to the three levels. You can basically fall into three different levels when you have a metabolic efficiency test. Level 1 is no metabolic efficiency point whatsoever. You are a carb burner versus a fat burner. And throughout exercise, the intensity of exercise increases from here to here. You are burning more fat and less carbohydrate. So that is a level 1. Super easy to fix from a dietary perspective because honestly, that's just imbalanced blood sugar. Okay, that's super easy. I will tell you in my practice, I see about 60% of the athletes I test who are that level 1. So you're very efficient in burning carbs, but you're also efficient in storing fat. And usually that's not our main goal, okay, for the most part. Okay, level 2, if you're to do the test, and just like I explained earlier, if you're starting out burning more fat versus carbohydrate, and then as the intensity of exercise increases and you intersect those lines, that is a level 2. So you have an identified metabolic efficiency point. We don't know where it is, excuse me, but you do have it. Now, the key is where it happens. Is it happening early in exercise, like low intensity exercise, moderate, high intensity exercise? Because here's the thing with a level 2 who has a metabolic efficiency point. The two strategies we use to improve that are obviously nutrition and a little bit of exercise. Now, the two goals, if that is you, if you have a metabolic efficiency test and you're a level 2, you have a defined metabolic efficiency point, I don't care where it is, there are two goals. You're trying to increase the amount of fat that you're burning at a lower intensity. So during those early stages, you're trying to increase the fat burning, right? So you're basically burning more fat at moderate intensity exercise and maybe even higher intensity exercise. And the second goal is to move your metabolic efficiency point to the right, 1 stage, 2 stages, whatever, right? Because then you become more efficient at using fat at higher intensities, which means you are actually doing what? You are preserving your carbohydrate stores until you really need them. And that's crucial for most people, okay? All right, the last level is level 3. Level 3 is the opposite of level 1. So these I've only seen in athletes who are mostly following a ketogenic diet. So they actually start burning a lot of fat versus carbohydrate. And then they are getting to the point of it crossing of having a metabolic efficiency point, but they don't quite get there because what's holding them back is not their nutrition, mostly. It's that they aren't able to fuel anaerobic or higher intensity exercise. Okay, so there are some nutrition strategies there. So anyway, that's the first thing you get from a metabolic efficiency test. You get to see if you are a level 1, 2, or 3 metabolic efficiency level. And then there are different dietary and exercise strategies to go along with that. Now, it doesn't stop there. A lot of people think, oh, that's it. No, it's not it. Second thing that a metabolic efficiency test does and provides you is the calories that you burn per hour. And this is exact. This isn't your Garmin, your Coros, your Suntos watch, like whatever telling you, oh, I burn 500 calories and stuff. This is exact because we are measuring by breathing. This is not an algorithm, right? This is not AI. This is not a wrist-based optical heart rate monitor, right? This is exact. So when you take a metabolic efficiency test, you are breathing either into a mask or a mouthpiece, and it's collecting the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide that you're breathing, okay? Very accurate calorie burn. And so you may be saying, okay, great, but what do I do with that? Well, That's step two, or that's the number two reason why you get a metabolic efficiency test, is to determine accurate calorie burn. The third reason is to determine how many calories you should consume per hour during exercise. So, say, for example, you're burning 500 calories per hour and you go for a bike ride. Maybe it's a 3 or 4 hour bike ride, right? And you're like, hey, I want to know how many calories to eat per hour. Well, here's the great thing. We can use research. Sport nutrition research is actually interesting because the newest guidelines provide us the opportunity to try to fuel better when we exercise. And that fueling strategy is the range is anywhere between 120 to 360 calories per hour. But not everybody falls into that category. Like, would you rather guess your calories per hour, or would you rather have them exactly accurate to your body, your physiology, your fitness level? Exactly my point, right? So the third reason to do this is to have what I call your calorie intake range. Now, I set this up. I created this when I first created the metabolic efficiency training concept almost 20 years ago. And basically what I wanted to answer was the question, how many calories should I burn based on what I'm sorry, how many calories should I eat based on how many calories that I'm burning? So, in the past we used to use the nutrition research, but now we have this more accurate way, because what I've come up with is a range of 10 to 40%. Here's what that means. That means most athletes can input or consume 10 to 40% of the calories that they are outputting or burning. So you take your total calorie burn per hour, which was the second benefit of metabolic efficiency test. Then you take 10 to 40% of that. Now, why is that such a big range? Well, two things. One, it depends on if you've ever had GI distress or if the GI distress monster rears its ugly head in your life. Obviously, if it does, we want to really fine tune your nutrition and sometimes increase your fat burning ability so it lowers your calorie consumption per hour. Now, the second reason is really, or why there's such a big range, is because it depends on your level of metabolic efficiency. If you are burning more carbs and storing more fat, you actually need to eat more carbohydrate per hour because your body is constantly burning through them. But on the flip side, if you're burning more fat and storing more carbs, you can actually get away with not consuming as many calories per hour because you're so good at using your fat stores. Okay. So that's reason three. It actually gives you a range of how many calories should you eat per hour based on your individual physiology and fitness. And the last one, and it's not a true benefit per se, because this is not a performance-based test, but if you do have a metabolic efficiency point, wherever that happens, at a certain heart rate, power, pace, speed on the treadmill, whatever it is, anything to the left of that or below your metabolic efficiency point, that exercise intensity will actually serve you in terms of your prescription to burn more fat. So as an example, maybe your metabolic efficiency point happens at a heart rate of 150 beats per minute. Well, anything under 150 beats per minute that you exercise at will actually be burning more fat. So now you can kind of get a little more individual in that fat burning zone, if you will. So you can kind of get a better guesstimate rather than all these equations, the AI, and all these charts that you see out there. So in summary, metabolic efficiency testing is extremely accurate because it's testing you, your physiology, your fitness level at this current time point. From that, you can gain a customized nutrition plan to support whatever your goals are, whether they're health, longevity, athletic performance, or all three of them. Metabolic efficiency testing can do absolutely everything that I just said. In fact, maybe even a few other things that I haven't found yet. Now, here's the thing. If you'd like to learn more about this, go to eNRGperformance.com, eNRGperformance.com. Click on the tab Metabolic Efficiency Training. You can read all about the testing, all about that. You can also find metabolic efficiency training specialists around the world who have been certified through me, through my certification and mentorship. Some of them actually provide this testing. Now, if you want to come out and visit me in Colorado, would love to see you. Great. I do the testing here, but you can also find opportunities to do the testing, hopefully that's close to you. Now, If you don't find someone close to you, here's my second recommendation. Try to find somewhere that does VO2 max testing. If they do VO2 max testing, most likely they have the proper technology to do a metabolic efficiency test. What they need is just the simple protocol to actually do the test. And the protocol can be found in my newest 3rd edition book. So it's very easy for any practitioner to run a test because they can actually follow the protocol in here for any athletes. So there you have it. Thank you so much again, Julie, for the question. Hopefully this answers your question.